Welcome. I'm happiness coach Teresa Greco, and this is the Steps to Happiness show. Here, my guests and I talk about the steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. Hello, and welcome to the Steps to Happiness show on 105.9 The Region. I'm your host, Teresa Greco, happiness coach, author, editor, writer, educator, and Reiki master. Are you ready to tap into your inner happiness? Then the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that help you realize that happiness isn't a goal. It isn't something you need to achieve outside yourself. Happiness is a state of being. It's your essential nature. Happiness is who you really are. Together with my guests, we explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices that can help lead you back to the happiness that's within you. Today's show is being brought to you by Chili Moose Premium Coolers and Drinkware. They have all your summer essentials. Chili Moose, adventure awaits. Stay tuned as Chili Moose has a giveaway for my listeners today. The happiness principle for today's show is making time for mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Is it the same as meditation? And why is it important to our happiness? When you are present and conscious of the flow of inner thoughts, emotions, and sensations being experienced in that moment, you are being mindful. Mindfulness means having awareness by directing your attention to what is occurring within you and around you at that moment, without judgment or expectation. How are you feeling? Stressed, anxious, flustered? Are you breathing quickly? Is your body tense? Is your mind ruminating over thoughts like doubts, worrying about things that have already happened or not yet happened, or distracted by things not happening in the way you desired or envisioned? These are all signs that you need to stop and reset your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self. Completely stop and decide that you are going to be mindful for a moment. Stop the autopilot, stop the activity, stop the thoughts, and be in the now. Mindfulness can take the form of meditation, and for others, almost any activity can be turned into a mindful activity by being aware of what you are doing. Think about what you can be cognizant of through your 5 senses. Become aware of your breath as you breathe deeply in and out through your nose for at least a minute, longer if possible. Spend time scanning each part of your body as you focus on sensations like the wind on your skin, the feeling of your clothing, or even aches and pains in certain spots. If your eyes are open, observe everything about the scene in front of you. Keep your mind focused while you note colors, shapes, and movement. Eat mindfully. When you sit down to your meal, focus on the different smells that are present in the food and in the environment, the texture and taste of the food in your mouth, and chew very slowly and deliberately. Mindfulness allows you to appreciate what life is trying to show you, offer you, and allow you to experience. Understanding that mindfulness is a choice we all have. It does require practice and consistent dedication, but the benefits make it worthwhile. It helps one to navigate depression and anxiety by detaching from worry, doubt, and self-judgment. It reduces the stress response in the body, allowing the immune system to function more effectively while also lowering blood pressure and anger impulses. With mindful awareness, we can effectively navigate through situations being in control, helping us to return to who we are at our core, which is peace, calm, harmony, and joy. Being mindful is powerful when you know why you are doing it and what positive sensations are experienced in the body when you do. Ultimately, mindfulness is appreciation and acknowledgement that in this moment, we are alive to experience it. With that being said, I'm excited to introduce my first guest. She's an entrepreneur, mental health advocate. She's a mother and stepmother and a student of psychotherapy. Courtney Gedeon, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. So why don't we start off by you telling us a little bit about what your life was like before the pandemic?
Yeah, things, I guess, from an outside perspective looked great. I have a beautiful daughter. I gave birth to her in 2017, and she's my world. But actually, not too long after I had her, I suffered from postpartum anxiety, and this really, I mean, I've had other mental health challenges in my life, but this really opened my eyes to, in particularly, the challenges that women go through. And On top of that, there were some other things going on. I mean, I guess the main root of it was that I wasn't necessarily addressing some of the stuff from my history, from my past. And so, what I was trying to do is I was trying to, I guess you could say, numb them or ignore them by, going out to parties and to shopping and all of these other things that were kind of just really distracting me from some things that were going on inside of me. So, mental health has always been important to me. Like I said, I've had certain challenges within my life, but before the pandemic, I was trying to push them off, trying to ignore them. And that couldn't happen anymore once the world shut down.
And so then when the pandemic hit, then how did you feel like that hit your life at that point?
Well, I certainly couldn't ignore things that were going on anymore. I mean, I couldn't numb things through going out. I couldn't numb things through shopping. I was just faced with everything that was going on in my life. And on top of that, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, I've always had a little bit of a tricky relationship with alcohol. And much like a lot of the population, when the pandemic hit, my drinking really spiked. I come from a line of alcoholics. My grandfather was an alcoholic. My dad is a recovering alcoholic, and I have the addictive disease myself. And so what I found with the pandemic is I was really faced with pretty much a fork in the road. I could go down the way of self-destruction and continuing to numb myself. It would be alcohol that I would be numbing myself with, or I could make the active choice, the deliberate choice to change, to have the courage to look within and deal with the neuroses that were, plaguing me for quite a while. And that's the road that I picked. And I picked that for myself and my life, but I also picked it for my daughter because I don't want her and didn't want her to be the adult child of an alcoholic. And by me quitting drinking, that her statistics of her becoming an alcoholic dropped significantly. So it was really for the benefit of her life and mine. And it was time. It was time, definitely time. And so what I did as well is I went back to school. I joined my master's. I finally decided to do my master's, had the courage to go back and do that. And of course, everything made sense for me to go back in the mental health field with hopes to help other people.
And so with that new beginning, what other steps have you implemented that have helped to change your life and where you are now?
Well, I mean, my life, when I look at it, pre-pandemic to what it is now, it's completely different. Some of the steps were, I started a walking group. So when I was actually experiencing my anxiety, I thought I can't be the only woman going through this. And so within my community, I started a walk for mental health, where I met so many amazing women. And one of those women actually was really pivotal in helping me or pushing me to go back to school and get my master's in counseling psychology. So between starting the walking group, starting my master's program, and deciding to quit drinking and really focus on myself, making that active choice every day to work on myself, these have all been the steps to getting where I am today. And now that I have made that choice to go down that path, that fork in the road, and take that path of health and healing and self-discovery, I have to say, I mean, the world has opened up for me. Just seeing everything that is available to me now is amazing. I just feel like my brain has expanded, my vision has expanded, and I see so much more than I saw before. And these are choices. I mean, these are choices that we all have. I could go down that fork in the road that could take me back easily, but today I choose to stay on the healthy track. And so each day is a choice.
And so what are some of the self-care practices that you've taken on? I believe you mentioned mindfulness, I think some yoga as well.
So mindfulness, absolutely. That's been a real game changer for me. For those who aren't so sure about what mindfulness is, it's basically being able to separate your emotions from yourself so that ultimately you have control over your behaviors versus letting your emotions guide your behaviors. And so what has helped me with mindfulness as well is meditation. That's been a really big thing for me. Continuing my walks and my exercising is definitely something that helps me. And also getting a good night's sleep. I mean, I think one of the main ways that my anxiety can spike is when I don't have enough sleep. So sometimes it can be as simple as just getting a good night's sleep. It doesn't have to be this huge, profound thing. But when we look at what we call the biopsychosocial, so the three big areas in our lives that affect our health, our well-being, our mood, we really have to dive into each sphere to see what can help us change and benefit. So definitely sleep, a lot of reading, a lot of meditation, and trying to, which has been a real hard thing during this pandemic, but trying to keep as connected with friends as possible. That's a big thing too.
Yeah, all wonderful strategies. So when you look back at everything you've accomplished in little over a year, when all of this started, what have you realized about yourself?
A lot, a lot. I've really realized that there are certain core beliefs that I had about myself and still have because they're pretty hard to shake, but that have really limited, or I've been allowing them to limit what I am capable of. And it's because I believed them. But the fact that I can now feel more free, I feel like I have so many more choices ahead of me and that I'm the person who gets to dictate, what's next for me. Therapy has been a huge thing for me. I've been in therapy for a year and it's been so amazing. And I wish people would realize that, you don't have to be at a breaking point to seek therapy. I mean, life is so challenging and it throws curveballs at us every day. And, if we don't have to be on the verge of divorce or a mental breakdown before we see a therapist, just to help us through life, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice too. But just really getting to the root of who I am and some limiting beliefs about myself and challenging them. And so it's been a really a freeing process, definitely.
And I could see how mindfulness would allow for you to challenge some of those beliefs, because when we're there in the moment and making a cognitive decision to really pay attention to what's happening, to what's coming into the mind, to what's happening around us, then it could help to rewrite some of those beliefs.
Yeah, it just really presses the pause button because we are so used to going down a certain way, right? The negative cycle of what we're used to doing. And what I find mindfulness does is it puts that pause in there and it allows me to say, okay, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Physically, what are my emotions about this? And in doing that, it lets me know that there are other options. I don't have to go down this negative path. There are other choices for me. And as I said, on a bigger scale, this positive lifestyle is a daily choice. It doesn't just happen. It takes work and it takes mindfulness and things like that. So every single day. Yeah.
No, I love that because earlier in the show I was talking about just stopping the autopilot, right? That a lot of us just live our lives like that in the subconscious. 95% of the day we live in the subconscious mind, which is really the habit part of ourselves. So it doesn't leave us very much to like just the 5% to just stop and pay attention to what we're saying to ourselves, what's going on in our head to be able to rewrite our story and rewrite our future. So that's amazing. Courtney, if people want to get in touch with you after the show, how can they do that?
Well, I am actually most active on Instagram. I started an Instagram page back when I first started my walks for mental health, and it's at Real Housewife of York Region. I started that to try to rally the women around me and in my rally the women in my community. So if you want to reach out to me, that's the place to find me.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Courtney, thank you so much again for being on the show today, sharing your story and the steps you've taken to change your life for the better,
Thank you, Teresa.
and inspiring us too that that there are good things that are coming out of the pandemic. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
We'll be back here on 105.9 The Region on the Steps to Happiness show with Teresa Greco. Welcome back to the Steps to Happiness show with Teresa Greco. Stay tuned until the end of the show today because we have a giveaway you'll want to take advantage of. I'm excited to introduce my next guest. He's a former alcoholic and drug addict who's found his calling as a meditation coach. Vas Solo, hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you for having me.
So tell me, what got you started in meditation?
So I started meditating when I was in recovery for drug addiction and alcoholism 4 years ago. Before that, I was in addiction for 12 years. And for me, actually, addiction started really early on in my life. So when I was young, I was addicted to food. And then when I was in high school, I started to experiment with marijuana, with drinking, magic mushrooms, and gradually those kinds of things really started to take over my life until in my 20s, I started to use hard drugs. And that's when my life completely spiraled out of control. And, for a very long time, I felt very, very unhappy. I felt like something was always missing from my life. And I felt really, really alone in the world. I couldn't relate to life as it was, happening around me. And so for me, those substances were a way for me to escape out of feeling that way. They sort of lifted me out of that dark state and gave me a sense of belonging, a sense of ease, a sense of comfort. But eventually they stopped working and, things became unmanageable. And that's when I went into a program and I started working the 12 steps. And right around that same time is when I started to use meditation. And I found that the meditation really helped me in my recovery. I started to notice that when I meditated regularly, my mind was much more at ease, my mood was much better. And I started to actually experience some really cool things in my life, which I had never experienced before. And I knew that it was the meditation because when I got lazy, for example, and I stopped meditating regularly, some of those dark thoughts would return. My mood wouldn't be as good. I started to feel restless, irritable, discontent again. So that's how I got into meditation. And that's why I've stuck with it for 4 years now.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned some of the benefits that you felt when you were engaging in meditation. Is there anything that you can share from a neuroscience perspective as to how meditation actually affects the brain?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool that science is really starting to study meditation now and to see how it's affecting us, not just on this level, which we try to explain, but we can't really prove. But the studies that they're doing with MRIs, which can take a scan of the brain when people are meditating or for those who meditate regularly, some of those studies have shown that people who meditate regularly have a much more active prefrontal cortex. And that's the area of the brain right here, this front part of the brain, which is associated with some of our higher faculties like concentration, impulse control, creativity, abstract thinking, and even happiness. And they've also shown, conversely, that those people have a much quieter limbic brain, which is the more primitive portion of our brain. And that's associated with aggression, fear, anxiety. And so they've compared these scans with people who don't meditate and even people who are depressed. And people who are depressed have a quiet frontal lobe and a very active limbic brain. So on a science level, we can see that meditation positively affects certain areas of the brain, which help us to feel good, just like it was helping me when I was doing it in recovery.
Yes, that's so fascinating. So in terms of happiness, then, what would you say, or why would you say meditation is a powerful tool for those who are looking to become happier?
So as I've been meditating the last 4 years and studying meditation and learning more about it, I've come upon this really cool thing that the meditation does for the mind. And to keep the mind in a balanced state, it really needs four things, the same four things that the body needs. So it needs regular exercise, it needs proper nutrition, it needs rest, and it needs regular cleansing. And so meditation does all those four things for the mind. And since the mind is our tool for experiencing life, for experiencing the world and ourselves, it would help us greatly if we can have that tool or this lens through which we see the world in a balanced state. Because when the mind is clear, when the mind is uplifted and it's balanced, we feel happier and we experience life as more joyful. And so I guess I can maybe focus on one of those things today. And for example, the way that meditation exercises the mind, for example, is it it um, it helps us develop two very important skill sets that the mind has. One of those is awareness, and the other is willpower. So those two things are very helpful for us in daily life because awareness helps us recognize certain things around us and within ourselves, and willpower helps us to change those things. So I'll tell you a short story. When I was in recovery and I was meditating, one of the things that I noticed was I started to get new insights into myself and into my character. And I remember I was arguing with my mom in the kitchen once, and we were not arguing, but debating something. It was something about health. And because I'm a personal trainer, I used to be very proud of my knowledge as it pertains to health. And I always thought I knew better. And so I was trying to prove to my mom that I really knew what I was talking about. And I noticed for the first time how attached I was to these ideas, and that this attachment had a lot to do with how proud I was of my quote unquote status as a personal trainer and a health expert. And I realized that this was an unhealthy way to go about my relationship with my mom and just in general. And so now I know that it's because I was meditating and I was generating this greater level of awareness that I was able to notice this finally, and then to use my power of will to detach myself from that pride and from that attachment and to actually start to change.
Yeah, that's a great story. And so for me, meditation is that gateway practice that I encourage people, if they're going to make any change, it would be meditation. It was one of the things that I began integrating when I started on my own journey to self-love and self-care and really my happiness journey. And so I feel that it is that gateway practice to allowing us to understand that we are more than just our physical selves. We're more than just our physical bodies making our way through the world, that there's all aspects of ourselves. So the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual part of ourselves that I really feel meditation allows us to awaken within ourselves, to remember who we really are, that it's a part of ourselves that we haven't been nurturing and we're not taught to tap into, and really to understand the potential that lies within our spiritual self that can guide us towards a happier life, and really feeling happier within ourselves, because we are happiness. It is our essential nature. It's who we really are. And meditation allows us to remember that and to really help us to return to that. And that story that you just shared is one of those like situation that arises and you're like, well, this is that I'm not really demonstrating, the best part of myself. Let me just, take a step back here for a moment and really reconnect with the love that's inside of me. And so, Vas, if people want to find out how they can start with meditation, where would you recommend they go?
So they can go to indigotribeacademy.com and go into the program section. I just released a perfect starting place for those who want to learn how to meditate. It's a course called Meditation 101. It's all online. It's you have great videos there that will take you through the 4 different stages of meditation. They will help you learn step by step how to meditate, the fundamentals, and you'll get audio of guided practices. You'll have a manual. It's a fantastic course for those who are just starting out, or even those who do meditate but maybe want to take their meditation a little bit to the next level. So indigotribeacademy.com. And we're actually offering a great discount for your listeners. When they put the Meditate 15 in the promo code section, they'll get 15% off the course.
Great. And I think you wanted to offer one lucky listener the access to the course as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so that. Thank you so much for offering that. And it sounds so perfect. So for anyone that's listening and not quite sure how to get started with meditation, to start really reaping the benefits of what meditation can do for you and your happiness, please check out the website that Vas recommended. Vas, what is the best way for people to connect with you?
So they can find me on that website, indigotribeacademy.com. I teach a live course there as well, once a week on Tuesday at 7 p.m. And they can sign up for that, or they can find me on my social media, Vas Solo on Facebook, and Why Spirit Matters on YouTube. I talk mostly about addiction, recovery from addiction, and self-improvement on my YouTube channel.
And I can attest that his YouTube channel is amazing. It's really a wealth of information and great videos. Vas, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your story and the benefits that meditation had for yourself and as well as for others.
Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. Blessings.
Thank you. That was great.
Okay, amazing. Amazing.
You got all the points in. It was perfect.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I didn't know like how much time we had, but
well, I get the signal, so I get the
Yeah.
signal. So it was all good. Okay,
Nice.
so I'm going to let you go because I have to record the end of the show.
Fantastic.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Teresa. We'll be in touch, okay?
Yes, we will. We will. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Chili Moose Premium Coolers and Drinkware, our sponsor for today's show, is offering one lucky listener their Big Pine Canteen, a 64-ounce stainless steel growler, ideal for keeping drinks cold or hot. To qualify for this opportunity, visit my Instagram page at Teresa Greco _steps to happiness and look for the giveaway post for details. Today's show was about meditation and mindfulness and how living in the present is the best way to maintain mental health, happiness, and well-being. We can get swept up into the whirlwind of the world we live in, losing focus, but most of all, losing ourselves. When we allow ourselves to stop, breathe, and attune our senses to become fully aware of everything we are experiencing in that moment, we are able to release, let go, and return to who we really are, which is peace, love, and happiness. going into this week, remember these 3 components to mindful awareness. These are to stop, to observe, and to return. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to being with you again next Saturday.
Interested in happiness and spiritual coaching and workshops? Go to teresagreco.ca. Email stepstotruehappiness@gmail.com. Follow on Instagram, Teresa Greco _steps to happiness, or on Facebook at Steps to True Happiness with Teresa Greco. This is the Steps to Happiness Show on 105.9 The Region.